You talk about the age of innocence, but we're born with sin, but then you have to be able to make the decision. At what age if you lose a child, say, in an accident, at what age do you say, okay, they're good, they're going to heaven?
See, this is why we do Q&A, is questions like that. No.
That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked.
Yeah,
it.
because
Don't apologize.
It's a very common question. The reason it's a very common question is the Bible doesn't give us a number. That's why. There is no text we can point to and say, thus saith the Lord, at 13, you are now required to. It's just not there. So how I'm about to answer this question has all of the precursor, don't quote me, this is not official church doctrine, this is Ian's take on the issue. Understood? If this is on TikTok later, I'm going to be upset. Not that I would ever know that. I would argue it's 20. And here's why. When the Israelites are in the wilderness after they come out of slavery in Egypt, and God tells them to go and take the promised land, and they go and they check it out, and they come back and they say, there are giants there. We would look like grasshoppers in their eyes. There's no way we can take the promised land. And Joshua and Caleb are the only two that say, no, God has promised us this land. We can go and take it. But the rest say no and convince the whole nation to disobey God and not trust his promises. And then they're condemned to the 40 years in the wilderness. They're condemned to the 40 years because everybody who's over 20 years old has to die first. Everybody over 20 is condemned by God, and everybody under 20 is not condemned by God for that rebellion. And once that whole generation dies off, then they can go into the promised land. That is pure speculation on my part, but if there's anywhere I would have to go to draw a line, it'd be that. But that's real shaky ground. You pulled stuff up.
Yeah, I will give one more verse that would also contend that the age is 20 years old. Exodus chapter 30, verse 14. So we're still on Mount Sinai at this point, because everything from Exodus 19 through Numbers chapter 10 is all on Mount Sinai. So here they're talking about the census and making an atonement offering. And so in verse 14 it says, everyone who is numbered from 20 years old and over shall give the contribution to Yahweh. So they're giving offerings for atonement for everyone 20 years and older at that point as well. So that's the only other verse that I could think of that is possibly gives an age also.
Yeah. I think some of that begins to fit with what we now know regarding brain development and all of those things. The prefrontal cortex of the human brain is not finished developing until around age 25. So you parents who expect your teenagers to make adult decisions, they can't. They literally cannot make adult decisions. That part of the brain is still actively being formed. During middle school years, there's parts of it that are like disintegrating away to rebuild. So you are right to say that your middle schooler is losing their mind, because they literally are losing their mind as their brain is developing.
Who are offended.
Yeah, you are. It's just a thing. So to skew a little bit older with around 20 begins to fit with that, to where people are growing to a place of maturity enough to be able to make right, reasonable, godly decisions, because they can't necessarily do that beforehand.
I have some thoughts about like babies.
Yeah, tell us your thoughts
too, but I don't know. I mean, does that apply enough?
Please do so.
Yeah, well,
chase the rabbit.
Yeah, so there's actually, I wanted to offer. I like to read, and when I read a book that I think would be beneficial, I usually buy like 10 of them. And this is my, I think, second stack of 10. This is a book called Predestination, and it's got a great chapter in here. And the title of the chapter, I got it right in front of me: Did God elect babies who die? Because that's an important question, and that's one that a lot of people have that the Bible isn't completely clear on. But I'll just kind of go through the bullet points that he does. And if you want a copy of this book afterwards, please come and see me there. It's excellent. He says babies who die are sinners by nature, not sinners by choice. We are all born with a sinful nature, but it says here, original sin means that we inherit a sinful nature. From the moment we are conceived, we are sinners by nature. At some point early in our lives, as we develop, we become sinners by choice. You would say it's 20, maybe. We'll see.
Again,
maybe
pure
it's sooner.
fabrication.
Yeah. We sin because we are sinners. That is, we sin by choice because we are sinners by nature. Babies who die are sinners by nature, but not sinners by choice. And we also know from Scripture that God condemns people who consciously rebel against Him. The Bible just has this thing that these two truths that are going on at the same time, that we're saved by grace. Think Ephesians 2, we're saved by grace, not by works, so that no one can boast. But we are damned, we are sent to hell by our works. When we are sentenced to an eternity in hell, that's because of what we have done. So it says, so God may be merciful to babies, and he puts in parentheses, and those with severe mental disabilities, because they have not consciously rebelled against Him. They have an excuse. Romans 1 says that God is clearly seen, so that men are without excuse. And so this quote is saying that there are some with an excuse. We also know that no human is saved apart from Christ. King David implies when his son that he has with Bathsheba in adultery dies, it implies he says that he'll see him again. It says that David, when the baby's sick, he's in mourning, he's in grief, he's not eating. They're all worried about him, but then when the baby dies, he cleans himself up and he says, I'll see him again. So he's confident in that. So the Bible, there's this implication throughout Scripture that God mercifully saves babies who die. And I think there's a lot of hope for that. If you believe, if we stand in Scripture that salvation is by grace, that it's not something we are choosing, because a baby can't choose that. But if salvation is by grace, then I think we can be very confident that we'll see those who could not choose in heaven. So there's more to it, but yeah, if you'd like a copy of that,
Good stuff.
please come see me.